Are you making a game for Nintendo Switch? Which game engines do the best-selling indie games on Nintendo Switch use? To answer this question, we first have to find out what the best-selling games for Nintendo Switch are. Well, lucky for us, Nintendo released this information. On December 25, 2019, as part of their Indie World initiative, Nintendo released a video featuring their top-selling indie games. In this video, we'll go through each one and find out which game engine they used. We are Ask Gamedev, and these are the game engines used for Nintendo Switch's best-selling indie games. Welcome back. We make videos on how to elevate your game development and inspire others. If after watching this video you want to continue the game dev conversation, check out the video description for a link to our Discord server. Alright, let's get started. In Nintendo's video, they listed 15 titles. Today, we'll be looking at 10 of them, only because Castle Crashers, Terraria, Torchlight 2, Ori and the Blind Forest, and Downwell were all originally released many years ago in 2008, 2011, 2012, and 2015 for the last two respectively. Without further ado, number 1. Cuphead. If you've been watching us for a while, you know we're big fans of Cuphead. We've talked about Cuphead at length in previous videos, and will probably continue to do so for a long time. If you haven't heard the story though, here's a quick recap. Cuphead was started by two brothers, Chad and Jared Moldenhauer, who quit their jobs, remortgaged their homes, and put it all on the table for Cuphead, a run-and-gun, tough-as-nails action platformer featuring hand-drawn art and animation in a style of 1930s Fleischer Studios cartoons. They launched in 2017, and it all paid off. Cuphead has since won a slew of awards. Just to name a few: Excellence in Art and Excellence in Animation from the South by Southwest Gaming Awards, Outstanding Achievement in Animation, Outstanding Achievement in Art Direction, and Outstanding Achievement in Original Music Composition from the 21st Annual DICE Awards, and Best Art Direction, Best Independent Game, and Best Debut Indie Game from the 2017 Game Awards. Since then, it's been Cuphead fever, with DLC on the way, a Netflix show announced, and most recently, a Cuphead Mii Fighter costume in Smash Bros. So, which engine did Studio MDHR use? Believe it or not, the 2D masterpiece was made with Unity. According to a post on Unity, as well as helping Studio MDHR process the massive amount of their exquisite art, Unity's out-of-the-box features such as the sprite renderer, sprite packer, 2D physics, and particle effects ensured that Cuphead's stunning results were a sure bet. Next up on the list, number 2, Untitled Goose Game. Untitled Goose Game is a comedy stealth title where you play as a horrible goose who gets to irritate a town full of people. To better illustrate what this means, some of the missions include make someone break the fancy vase, trap the boy in the phone booth, and make the man spit out his tea. Inspired by Super Mario 64, Hitman, and a stock photograph of a goose, the title was developed by House, a 4-person team based in Melbourne, Australia. A relatively new studio, the team at House had only one game under their belt prior, 2016's Push Me, Pull You. The engine they chose to use for Untitled Goose Game? Unity. So far, that's 2 on the list for Unity. Their other tools included Blender for modeling and animation, Fmod for sound, Git for version control, and a basic spreadsheet for production. When Untitled Goose Game was announced, it received a huge amount of attention, and that buzz continued all the way through to its release in late 2019. When it launched on Nintendo Switch, it topped the sales charts in Australia, the UK, and the US with over 100,000 copies sold. By the end of the year, it had sold over 1 million copies across all platforms. The title's greatest achievement, though, has to be winning Game of the Year at this year's DICE Awards, edging out Death Stranding, Control, Disco Elysium, and Outer Wilds. From the developers of Starbound and the publishers of Stardew Valley, the next game on the list is number 3, Wargroove. If you have fond memories of playing the Advance War series back in the Game Boy Advance days, then you'll feel right at home with Wargroove. Wargroove is a beautiful pixel art turn-based tactics game inspired by, you guessed it, Advance Wars. Wargroove takes place in a fantasy world where you play as one of 15 commanders who lead a squad of interesting creatures and characters. The game has a full campaign, an arcade mode, and even a map editor. In terms of development, this is the first title on the list to use a custom game engine. For Wargroove, the team used Halley Game Engine. Chucklefish CTO and lead programmer of Wargroove, Rodrigo Montero, stated in a series of tweets,
"Sometimes Unreal, Unity, GM are the best choice. Sometimes Custom Engine is the best choice. Anyone saying always go for Engine X is wrong."
Then went on to say,
"Wargroove is a custom engine. Would have been more work to implement in Unity rather than in Halley."
Halley Game Engine is a lightweight game engine written in modern C++. It's licensed under the Apache 2.0 license, and you can find it on GitHub. We'll leave a link in the description. Wargroove launched in early 2019 to rave reviews, with Destructoid giving it a 9 out of 10 and Game Informer giving it a 9.25. 3 days after launch, the team announced that they had already recouped the cost of their development and that they would continue to improve the game. Number 4. Katana Zero. Katana Zero is a stylish neo-noir action platformer that features some beautiful pixel art, solid action platforming mechanics, and a brilliant story. You play as Subject Zero as you navigate the neon world, completing assassination contracts equipped with an array of moves and weapons and the ability to slow down time. Katana Zero is the first solo-developed game on this list. That's right, Katana Zero was developed by Justin Stander under his label ASCIIsoft over the course of many years. While Justin did have some help, he handled design and programming on Katana Zero almost exclusively. What started as a 2-year project that focused solely on gameplay expanded into a 6-year project filled with narrative and an in-depth story. It was inspired by revenge stories like Old Boy and John Wick. Justin wanted to deliver what he calls hypnotic zen of violence through action-based combat. Justin's engine of choice? Game Maker Studio 2. Katana Zero launched on PC and Switch in April of 2019, and within the week it was announced that over 100,000 copies have been sold. In less than 1 year, more than 500,000 copies were sold, generating $5 million in sales. It was a smashing success, both critically and commercially, launching Justin onto Forbes' 2020 30 Under 30 list in games. For more games made with GameMaker, check out our GameMaker Showcase video here. Number 5. Bava Is You. Bava Is You is a top-down puzzle game where you manipulate logic operators in order to navigate the world and solve puzzles. Objects and rules are all block-based, and you control a character that can move these blocks around to change the logic of a level. For example, you might be able to change 3 blocks that state a rule like wall is stop to wall is by moving the stop block, allowing you to now walk through walls. It's smart, it's innovative, and the game features over 200 levels. Bava Is You is yet another solo-developed title on this list. It was developed by Arvi Takari under the label Hempuli. The game started out as a Game Jam game from the 2017 Nordic Game Jam, where the theme was Not There. Arvi won first place at the jam, which prompted him to release a full game. Arvi's engine of choice, Multimedia Fusion by ClickTeam. Why? He answered this quite well in an AMA on the Nintendo Switch subreddit.
"I used MMF2 because I've grown extremely used to it over the past 11-12 years. When I first started making games, I migrated from GameMaker to MMF2's predecessor, the Games Factory, due to not understanding GameMaker scripting language. And since TGF filled my needs, then I stuck with it. I've been meaning to look at other tools for years, but once you know the strengths and weaknesses of a tool, and there are enough other people to offer support in times when you don't, it can be very hard to move on."
Bava Is You launched to immediate success, with PC Gamer giving it a 90 out of 100 and Polygon ranking it as their number 4 game of the year in 2019. Number 6. My Friend Pedro. My Friend Pedro by Dead Toast Interactive is an insanely over-the-top, adrenaline-filled action parkour platformer whose devs describe it as a violent ballet about friendship, imagination, and one man's struggle to obliterate anyone in his path at the behest of a sentient banana. The game's not just about clearing a room full of bad guys, though. It's about clearing a room full of bad guys in the most stylish way possible by using acrobatic moves, the environment, objects within the environment, and the ability to slow down time. The game actually has its roots as a Flash game. It looked quite a bit different back then, but still retained the charm found in today's version. Somewhere along the way, they decided to do a 3D remake, and we're glad they did. In terms of an engine, my Friend Pedro is the third game on this list that's made with Unity. If you're interested, the devs at Dead Toast kept a great devlog where you can read about their experience with the engine. My Friend Pedro launched in June 2019 and went on to sell over 250,000 copies in its first week. Near the end of 2019, it was reported that the title was closing in on 500,000 in sales. Number 7. Slay the Spire. One of the most unique genre fusions on the list, Slay the Spire is a roguelike, deck-building dungeon crawler released in January 2019 by Mega Crit Games. In Slay the Spire, you play as one of 3 heroes, each with their own unique card pools, and you work your way through a gauntlet of monsters, earning new cards to help you advance. Being a roguelike, be prepared for a lot of dying, but also a lot of learning along the way. Anthony Giovanetti, who led the design effort and did the programming on Slay the Spire, had been a lifelong card game player and was also a fan of roguelikes. He thought the deck-building genre and the roguelike genre would have a particularly strong mechanical pairing, and so he started designing Slay the Spire. The game was developed with libGDX framework. libGDX is a free, open-source game dev framework written in Java. The title actually originally launched as an early access title on Steam in 2017. It didn't do too well, moving only 2,000 copies in the first weeks. The game eventually gained popularity through streams, and by February 2018, the game had more than 500,000 players. At GDC 2019, co-founder Casey Yano announced that the title had sold more than 1.5 million copies across all its platforms. Number 8. Unravel II. From EA Originals, Unravel II is a sequel to the original puzzle platformer Unravel, starring the tiny, lovable character Yarny. In the Unravel series, you use yarn to traverse the world and solve puzzles. You can rappel, climb, build bridges, swing, and more. With Unravel II, they've doubled down, building the game around 2 Yarny characters to control. The game's platforms and puzzles were designed for a local 2-player co-op experience, but with an innovative swapping system, it's still just as fun as a solo adventure. According to an article written by Forbes, the title was created using a custom game engine, and that was partly the reason why Unravel 2 was not a Nintendo Switch title, to the dismay of many fans. The developers Coldwood Interactive did not have the capacity to port the game, and stated that it would have taken another year and a half or so to do so. Well, luckily for us, the community was heard and Unravel 2 spun onto Nintendo Switch a year later. The game currently has a strong open critic rating, and it also won the 2019 DICE Award for Family Game of the Year. Number 9. Blasphemous. Just released in September of 2019, Blasphemous is the newest game on this list. Blasphemous is a dark and punishing 2D Metroidvania-style game. It's punishing, it has fluid animations, and it's the most brutal action platformer that we've ever seen. In terms of tools, here's what devs The Game Kitchen had to say on Twitter.
We're using Unity. Made with Unity art is made frame by frame, pixel by pixel.
The game comes to us after a successful Kickstarter campaign where the devs raised $333,000 from almost 10,000 backers. If you're interested in learning more about Kickstarter campaigns for games, check out this video that we recently created on the subject. Last but not least, from Image & Form, the makers of Steamworld Dig, Steamworld Dig 2, and Steamworld Heist, comes another entry and a new genre to the universe. Number 10. Steamworld Quest, Hand of Gilgamesh. Steamworld Quest is a turn-based RPG/deck-building hybrid. You assemble a party of robots, fight other robots, and upgrade your party along the way by managing your multiple card decks. It's similar to Slay the Spire in that you build a custom deck, then you use your deck for actions and attacks in battles. According to a developer on the team, they use a custom engine. During a Reddit AMA on the Nintendo Switch subreddit, when asked, Julius wrote back,
"We use our own engine. It's so fancy, it has no name."
When the game launched, Polygon called it the latest must-own Nintendo Switch title, cementing itself as another amazing entry in the Steamworld franchise. So here's the tally. Coming in at number 1 is Unity with 4 games. Next, we have 3 games that use custom engines, and GameMaker, Multimedia Fusion, and LibGDX with a game each. Does this mean you should only use Unity? Of course not. While this is valuable reference information, as always, we recommend using an engine that you are comfortable with and supports the features and platforms that you need. Thanks for watching. For more Ask Gamedev, check out this video on Nintendo Switch development or this playlist on console development.